As the great Chinese philosopher Laozi once said, those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know. And that, my friends, is precisely the essence of the lesson we're about to explore. These words couldn't ring truer than when we're talking about none other than Tim Duncan, the big fundamental, a man of few words and endless basketball wisdom. Throughout his illustrious career, Duncan proved that he didn't need to scream from the rooftops to make an impact on the court. In a league often dominated by trash talk and flashy personalities, Duncan's stoic demeanor and unwavering focus spoke volume. When you thought it's the perfect opportunity to get in his head, throw him off his game with some fiery trash talk, well, that was the biggest mistake you could ever make on the hardwood. So, sit tight as we unveil the reasons why trash-talking Tim Duncan was a cautionary tale that players should have heeded. But first, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on our thrilling NBA deep dives. Now, let's get right into it. Remember what they say, in the world of basketball, you can talk the talk, but can you walk the walk? Well, when it comes to NBA great Tim Duncan, it's a whole different ballgame. We all know that back then, trash talking was a staple in the NBA, a mental game played in tandem with the physical one. From Michael Jordan to Kevin Garnett, players have used words as weapons to get into their opponents' heads. But there was something different about Tim Duncan. He let his actions speak louder than any words ever could. You see, in a league filled with trash talk and flashy antics, Tim Duncan stood out. His style of play may not have been flashy, but it was profoundly effective. And his demeanor, well, it was something to be revered and even feared. Tim Duncan was the epitome of relentless determination. The San Antonio Spurs icon was an absolute juggernaut on the court, consistently driving forward regardless of the obstacles in his path. And guess what? He did it all without any of that flashy, ego-driven trash talk that we've come to expect from some of the league stars. Tim once said,
"It will frustrate people more when you just keep coming and coming and coming and just keep getting things done. And no matter what they throw at you or no matter what they do, it doesn't affect you, and it kind of ends up affecting them much more than it does to you."
Now, if that doesn't fire you up, I don't know what will. Now, let's get one thing straight. Tim Duncan wasn't one to carry a mental load into games. Nope, not him. He had a game plan, a purpose, and that was all he needed. You see, while some athletes let the smack talk burrow its way into their minds like an unwanted house guest, Duncan, he was like a fortress of mental resilience, rock solid, unyielding, and utterly unfazed. His resume reads like a basketball dream come true. 5 championship rings, 19 epic seasons with the Spurs, and a legacy that continues to inspire. But here's the kicker. Unlike some of his contemporaries, Duncan wasn't one for flashy showmanship or cocky boasts. Duncan was cut from a different cloth. On the court, he was the embodiment of restraint and sportsmanship. No trash talk, no chest-thumping theatrics. Just a player who let his actions reverberate louder than any words ever could. The Spurs had high expectations for him from the start, because they took the Wake Forest alum with the first overall pick in the 1997 draft. And boy, did he live up to the hype. Over 1,400 regular season games, nearly 20 points, and more than 10 boards a game. That's not just impressive, it's legendary. If you're a fan, I know you're hoping that Victor Wembanyama will follow Tim's path and take the team to glory, but it's only time that will tell. Tim Duncan wasn't content with just lighting up the regular season. When the spotlight burned even brighter in the playoffs, he didn't back down. He elevated his game, averaging 26 points and 11.4 rebounds per game. Duncan was the cornerstone of the Spurs dynasty, and his Hall of Fame induction in 2020 was the ultimate crown on a legacy that continues to inspire future generations. Now, even the bravest of chatterboxes know when to hold their tongues, especially when they were up against our man, Tim Duncan. The legendary San Antonio Spurs power forward approached the game in his unique way. Draymond Green, the vocal heartbeat of the Golden State Warriors, is known for his fearless talk on the court. But even the most audacious players have their boundaries. And Draymond, well, he's learned that the hard way. There's one name he whispers in reverence, and that's Tim Duncan. In an ESPN diary entry, Draymond recounted his rookie year when he decided to engage in some verbal sparring with Tim Duncan himself. Now, you'd think Draymond, with his trash talk, had an upper hand, right? But he couldn't have been more wrong. As Draymond put it, he started firing shots at Tim during a game, expecting a fiery retort. But what he got was something else entirely. Just a piercing stare that cut through the noise. In his own words, "I started talking to Tim, and he kind of just stared at me. I just kept talking junk to him, and he kept staring at me. At that point, I realized during the rest of my career that I might as well not talk to him. Either one, he is not going to talk back because he has no respect for me. Or 2, he is not going to talk back because that is who he is. Or 3, both. I figured then that was the last time I would talk junk to Tim, and that was the last time." At that moment, Draymond realized he had trespassed into a domain of someone who not only commanded respect, but also did it without a single syllable. Now, the NBA is a symphony of errors, each with its chorus of stars, crescendos of skills, and unforgettable chapters. From giants of the paint to swift guards, the game has danced to the rhythm of ever-changing legends. The 2000s era was the golden age of power forwards. Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, and Dirk Nowitzki. Three names that rang through the hardwood like a thunderous crescendo. These were the titans who redefined the forward position in ways that will echo through eternity. But here's the twist that still has fans debating. While Garnett ignited rivalries with his trash talk, Duncan, well, he was the king of silence. The calm before the storm, if you will. He let his domination speak volumes. And oh boy, did it frustrate his opponents to no end. And you know what's fascinating? Duncan's approach infuriated his opponents even more. Garnett, he confessed on the All the Smoke podcast. And while Duncan's trash talk wasn't verbal, it left an indelible mark. We all know that when it comes down to talking smack, Kevin Garnett wrote the manual. The man had an arsenal of words that could light up a city. But hey, even a lion recognizes a master of the jungle. And when it came to the art of subtle verbal warfare, KG himself doffed his cap to none other than Tim Duncan. When asked about players who could talk a big game and then back it up, KG in his iconic style said, "Believe it or not, Tim Duncan." Now, let that sink in. We're talking about a player who could make even the boldest rival think twice before spitting fire. Yet, Tim Duncan in his quiet way had a technique that had KG shook. He wouldn't engage in verbal monologues or throw shade in elaborate sentences. Nah, he'd hit you like a sniper, straight and to the point. Got you. Ooh, almost. Can you imagine the frustration? But wait, because Garnett spills the beans on how Duncan executed his verbal judo, "Nice try," he'd murmur, all calm and composed. It's the worst kind of psychological warfare, the subtle kind that gets under your skin and stays there. And if you think it couldn't get more infuriating, brace yourself. Garnett couldn't get under Tim Duncan's skin. Nope, not even a little twitch. Well, he tried. Oh, how he tried to rile him up. But in a twist that had KG throwing his hands up, Duncan's chill-like composure was impenetrable. Duncan laid it all out on the Ringer NBA show, revealing the mind games that took place on the court. He said, "Garnett would test you early, figure out who you are, and depending on your response, you get a certain type of response from him later on. That's what he wanted. He wanted to get you outside yourself. He wanted to piss you off and kind of control the situation." So what was Duncan's response? This is where Tim showed his genius. He kept his cool, stayed true to his game plan, and didn't let the tempest of words divert him. He said, "It wasn't part of my game." That's like defusing a bomb with a feather. And here's the kicker. Duncan's quiet approach actually paid off. By playing his game without missing a beat, he managed to flip the script on Garnett's tactics. Imagine the frustration on the other end of the court, where KG's tricks were met with a stone wall. Now the question remains, was Duncan a trash talk titan? Or was he simply a maestro of composure? It's your call. But his demeanor left opponents scratching their heads. There was no shaking that foundation. And why would he? His game plan worked like a charm. So if you ever thought about poking the bear, Duncan's tale might just make you reconsider. Tim Duncan might not have been the flashiest player, but he's a living legend in basketball basics and mentality. His quiet mastery elevated him to the top of his game, and dare I say, the top 10 of all-time greats. Thanks for joining me on this ride through the minds and strategies of legends. And as always, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Give a thumbs up and don't miss out on the next thrilling chapter. Until the next one, stay fierce, stay passionate, and keep the basketball fire burning bright.